It's 5 o'clock, and I welcome everyone to the Saugeen Shores Committee of Adjustment meeting by Zoom on Monday, January the 17th, 2022, and I call this meeting to order. Item number 2 is the acknowledgement of any pecuniary interest. You can either identify it now or at any time it comes up on the agenda. See none. Our next item is the adoption of the minutes. May I have a motion to adopt the minutes? Moved by Deputy Mayor Matheson and seconded by the Vice Deputy Mayor Myatt. Any discussion about the minutes? See none, all in favor? That is carried. Thank you. I'm unaware of any additional business, so we shall move on to our public hearings. Is file number A-2021-070. This is Paul and Susan Summers with the municipal address of 10 Shipley Avenue. And the meeting on this file is now open. First, we will receive a report from the planning staff. Then the committee members will have an opportunity to ask questions, and I will ask them to reserve their comments on the application until we have heard from the public. Then we'll hear from the members of the public. Members of the public are advised that the ability to appeal the decision on this application may be limited if you have not provided comments on the application before the decision is made. After we have heard from the public, the committee will discuss and consider a recommendation on this application. We shall now ask the planner on file to present the application. I believe it's Ms. Mugabe. Please go ahead.
Yes, thank you, Chair O'Connor, and good evening, committee. It will just take a few seconds to load up the presentation. We have received a minor variance application submitted by Mr. Summers for his property 10 Shipley Avenue. To the north and south are existing dwellings, and to the east is Shipley Avenue, and to the west is an open road allowance, and further west is the lake. The entrance to the property as well as Shipley Avenue, they're actually of a higher elevation than the entire site. The next couple of slides are just to show the existing development on the property. On this slide, you can see there's an existing cottage as well as a shed out in the front. There are a couple of trees in the front as well as along the interior lot lines, but mostly at the rear of the property. This slide shows the south side of the property. The southeast area is previously disturbed with minimal forest cover. This is the north interior side yard. As you can see, there are a bunch of trees along the edge of the property. This shows the rear of the existing dwelling. There is also a wooden deck that is at the ground level, which is attached to the dwelling. You can't quite see it because of the hedge. I was standing at the deck when I took this photo of the rear yard. But the structure that you see in the distance is another deck. I believe it's actually situated in the road allowance. So this area is serviced with municipal water and sewers, and Shipley Avenue is a year-round municipal road. This application is seeking to reduce the rear yard depth from 7.5 meters to 3 meters. Approval of the variance would facilitate the construction of a replacement cottage and a detached garage. Some additional information. The subject land is designated primary urban communities and hazard land area in the Bruce County official plan. It's designated shoreline residential and environmental hazards in the local official plan. The zoning is residential first density R1 and environmental protection EP. We have circulated the application to the agencies and departments. There's no objection from the historic Saugeen Métis. town staff have commented that they would like all encroachments on the shore road allowance to be removed to the town's satisfaction. The Conservation Authority has commented that the site plan does not accurately reflect the lot dimensions as seen on their mapping, nor on the mapping provided by the county. To address this comment, the applicant has submitted a survey. It's a legal survey, and they've advised that the site plan was actually prepared based on that legal survey. I have forwarded a copy of the survey to the Conservation Authority, and I think that comment has been addressed. They have also advised that the subject property features potentially significant woodlands, potential habitat of threatened and endangered species, fish habitat, and potential significant wildlife habitat. Based on the site plan, all existing and proposed buildings and structures will be outside of the hazard designation and environmental protection zone. Respecting the adjacent lands, an environmental impact study is not required in this case because there is existing development of a similar size to what is proposed, and impact will be negligible. They would like tree removal to be restricted to only what is necessary to accommodate the proposed development. And to address this comment, I'm recommending a condition of approval requiring a tree retention plan to be submitted prior to the issuance of a building permit. The Conservation Authority has advised that both the county's environmental protection zone and environmental hazard designation closely reflect their hazard mapping, but are not exact. So we have gotten the county technician to update the designation and zone to better reflect the mapping that the Conservation Authority has. I have not received any comments from members of the public. I will now speak to the 4 tests of a minor variance. Test number 1, does the variance maintain the intent and purpose of the official plan? Well, both the county official plan and the local official plan permit residential development just outside of the environmental and hazard areas. And I have spoken to the requirement for a retention plan, and that will reduce impact to adjacent significant woodlands. So that mitigation measure will ensure that this proposal maintains the intent and purpose of the official plan. With respect to test number 2, does the variance maintain the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw? Normally, with redevelopment, that presents an opportunity to comply with the zoning bylaw if the previous structures do not comply. But in this case, relief requested to reduce the rear yard depth should be considered for a number of reasons. The first reason, and the most important reason, is that there's a slope in the front area, and that prevents the siting of development or buildings and structures to the easterly property line and pushes development further into the lot. This proposed rear depth will be in keeping with existing development on abutting properties. The third reason is that the proposed rear yard setback will ensure some usable backyard space and green space. And the fourth reason is that there is no neighbor to the west that could be impacted by a reduced rear yard setback. So in my opinion, the variance generally maintains the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. With respect to the third test, is the variance requested desirable for the appropriate and orderly development and use of the land and buildings? The existing dwelling was constructed in 1932. Redevelopment almost always improves a site. So the variance is desirable to facilitate redevelopment and represents an appropriate form of development for the use of the land. Then the fourth test is the minor variance minor in nature. And to address this test, we look at the impact to surrounding property owners, to the environment, and to municipal functions. Permitting the variance will not have an adverse impact on the character of this area. The proposed rear yard depth is in line with the existing development on adjacent properties. The proposal is for redevelopment, so there will be no impact to municipal functions. With respect to the environmental impact, I have spoken to the requirement for a tree retention plan, which would be a mitigative measure to be implemented to reduce impact to adjacent significant woodlands. It is my opinion that this variance meets all four tests of a that this proposal meets all four tests of a variance. Just as a recap, this application is seeking to reduce the rear yard depth from 7.5 meters to 3 meters. Approval of the requested variance will facilitate the construction of a replacement cottage with a detached garage. The proposal is consistent with the provincial policy statement. It upholds the objectives of the Saugeen Shores official plan and generally meets the intent of the zoning bylaw. The proposal satisfies the four tests of a minor variance. The recommendation is approval of this application subject to the conditions on the decision sheet. And that concludes my presentation.
Thank you, Ms. Mugabe. We will now hear from the members of the public. I understand that Mr. Saugeen wishes to speak.
Yes.
Welcome.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just for the record, I'm Stephen Cobain with Cobite Engineering and representing Mr. Paul Summers, the property owner. I'll just make it quick, don't have too much to say. Just want to state for the record that I've reviewed the planning report that was prepared by Ms. Mugabe with Mr. Summers, the property owner, and he was in general agreement with the recommendations that were contained in the report. That's all I have to say.
Thank you, sir.
Thanks.
Is Mr. Rennie wishing to speak? Is he on the call? I don't believe so.
Oh, he's coming over from, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Welcome, Mr. Rennie. Would you like to go ahead? If you're on mute, sir.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. My name's Don Rennie. I'm the owner of 2 Shipley, which would be 3 cottages to the north of the Summers property. And I joined in this call because I wanted to hear the justification from the planner. I understand the concern about the slope. I understand that concern. But one thing that has not been addressed by the planner, I think, is actually there are 2 things I want to talk to. And that is, if you think of the purpose of a setback, what it's designed to achieve is to maintain some kind of cohesion and consistency in a neighborhood. If you drive down Shipley, and we're number 2, and I think it ends at 100, there's at least 50 properties along Shipley, of which only 2 have garages that are what I would say within a meter or 2 or 3 meters of the street. If, as a matter of policy, the planners are going to recommend the construction of garages with significant reductions in setbacks, that will have a very significant change to the streetscape. And the planner has not addressed streetscape. If any of you drive down Shipley, which I invite you to do, you'll see it is characterized by large, magnificent trees bordering the road. There are only 2. My memory might fail me a bit in this, but even if there are more than 2, it is predominantly a fully treed streetscape. What is proposed by this variance is simply to place a garage, project a garage into the streetscape, and if one returns to the slide presented by the planner, the place where the cottage would go will require the removal of certain trees. So we haven't seen the tree retention policy, and we haven't seen how this cottage, which is by all definitions very large, will appear presented onto the streetscape. So I have concerns about the consistency of this with the cohesion, the visual cohesion that setback policies are designed to achieve. It is not within any of the exceptions. It doesn't correct or validate a prior non-conforming use. The justification is largely that the owner would like to build a very large garage with a reduced setback, in addition to a very large cottage, which presses up against the minimum side setbacks on the north and south side. And this is not to facilitate a living quarters or some, urgent public interest. It's simply because somebody would like to have a large garage. So I want councillors and ask councillors, invite you to consider the precedential impact of any decision you might make on allowing this variance for the objectives. Because I think if you consider this street as a whole, which you're required to do, this will have a very dangerous precedent setting effect. And as I say, the justifications are simply that they would like to have a large garage. So those are my comments. Thank you for the opportunity to make submissions to you, councillors.
Thank you, Mr. Rennie. Do any committee members have final questions before we close the public meeting and discuss the application? Seeing none, I now declare the public meeting to be closed. Are there any comments from the committee on this application? No questions then? Well, we'll now consider a recommendation on the application. Oh, Vice Deputy Mayor Myatt.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'm just wondering, when we, in terms of the all encroachments on the shore road allowance shall be removed as a condition to the town's satisfaction to the planner. Is the owner aware of that?
Through you, Mr. Chair, yes. So we have provided the applicant and the consultant, Mr. Stephen Corbin, with a copy of the report, so they are aware of the conditions that we are recommending. So the structure that's in the back, I believe that's the deck that's located in the road allowance. So that will need to be removed prior to the issuance of any building permit.
And they're also aware about the tree retention plan as a condition of approval. They're aware of that?
Through you again, Mr. Chair, yes, they are aware of the requirement for a tree retention plan.
Who monitors that?
So the tree retention plan will be submitted alongside the submission for a building permit application. So the Conservation Authority will have to review that plan and give us a clearance that they're satisfied with the tree retention plan.
Okay. When the lot is being cleared, ready to be built, who monitors the tree clearing program? The tree retention and yeah, the tree retention plan. Who's there on site to monitor that?
I believe it will be the building inspectors, because they have to build in accordance with the approvals that would have been given by the Conservation Authority.
Thanks, Ms. McGarvey. Appreciate it.
Deputy Mayor Matheson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. And through you, I drove down Shipley many times and have looked at this property. The trees to be removed are birch. They're low lifetime trees, so the average lifespan is 10 to 15 years. I don't see a problem with removing them, and we just did a severance further back on Shipley earlier a couple months ago. So I don't see a problem with this. They want to follow the rules. They're being made to move something that's in a different section of the property, so I will be supporting this motion.
Thank you, Deputy Mayor Matheson. Ms. Kuntz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and through you. I have also visited this part of Shipley many times, and I would just comment that's particularly timely that with regards to Mr. Rennie's comments about a large garage or the owners wanting a large garage, I think given our winters here in Bruce County, a large garage makes a lot of sense. If these people ever want to live permanently in that location or sell it to homeowners that want to live in that location, I think garage is necessary and helpful and very functional. And there's really nowhere else to put it. So I think if you're going to build a garage, you might as well build it to fit, to be functional. So that's my comment. I would be supporting this application. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? May I have a motion to approve this application subject to the conditions on the decision sheet? Moved by Deputy Mayor Matheson, second by Ms. Quince. Any discussion on the motion? If not, I'll call the vote. All in favor? That is carried. Thank you. Next on the agenda is a public meeting for file number A-2021-082. It's a minor variance application for the Bruce County Emergency EMS located at 1243 Mackenzie Road. First, we'll receive a report from the planning staff, and then committee members will have an opportunity to ask questions. Then we'll ask them to reserve their comments on the application until we have heard from the public. And we'll hear from any members of the public. Members of the public are advised that the ability to appeal the decision on this application may be limited if you have not provided comments on the application before the decision is made. After we have heard from the public, the committee will discuss and consider a recommendation on this application. I shall now ask Ms. Mugabe to carry on with the presentation. Ms. Mugabe.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. Again, a few seconds just to load up the presentation. Sorry, let me just okay. So with this application, most of us are familiar with this site. It's 443 Mackenzie Road. The site is at the southeast intersection of Highway 21 or Godrich Street and Concession 10 in Port Elgin. It's a through lot with one access along Mackenzie Road, which is to the east of the site. The next couple of slides will show the existing structures, buildings on the site. This photo was taken from the 10th concession. It shows the front area of the building. I can't see it because of the snow, but there's the parking area as well as the front entrance to the building. This is the east view of the site from Mackenzie Road. It shows the existing and only driveway into the site. This photo was taken from across the highway at Godrich Street. And I couldn't quite get into the rear yard or the south side to get a picture, but this gives some idea as to what it looks like at the rear of the property. So in terms of surrounding land uses, the police station is across the street from Mackenzie Road to the east. There's a place of worship to the west. There's a fitness club to the south. And to the northeast, there's the retail and residential uses, and there's a farm field at the northwest intersection of Godrich Street and Concession 10. This area is serviced with municipal water and sewers, and Mackenzie Road is a year-round municipal road. This application is seeking relief to increase the width of a driveway from 10 meters to 18.260 meters. This egress will be used by ambulances exiting the site. Approval of the variance will facilitate the construction of a new Bruce County paramedic station as an additional building or use to what is currently on the site. Some additional information. The subject land is designated primary urban communities in the Bruce County official plan. It's designated employment in the local official plan. The existing and proposed uses are permitted by way of special policy, section 3.15.5.1. The zoning on the site is light industrial. We've circulated this application to the departments and agencies. Town staff are supportive of the request to have an enlarged access for the use of ambulances and emergency vehicles. They have advised that in order to minimize the amount of hard surfacing along the Mackenzie frontage, they have requested narrower driveways at the north and south sides. They have communicated this to the proponent and expect the site plan to be updated. I believe the site plan has now been updated. The Minister of Transportation has commented that this property is within connecting links. Therefore, review, approval, and permits are not required from the ministry. The Saugeen Valley Conservation Authority finds this application acceptable. There are no natural heritage features that could be affected by the proposal. There are few trees on the site, and because of that, the applicant is required to follow up with the Ministry of Environment to ask about to see if there's any impact to threatened and endangered species. There's no objection from the Risk Management Office. I have not received any comments from members of the public. I will now speak to the 4 tests of a minor variance. Test number 1, does the variance maintain the intent and purpose of the official plan? The site is designated employment in the local official plan. The designation permits industrial uses. The present use on the site is not an industrial use. It is, however, permitted by special policy, and that policy allows for the site to be developed and used as an administrative building for Bruce County. It also permits government services associated with the County of Bruce. As such, the proposed paramedic station is a permitted use on the site. The proposal maintains the intent and purpose of the official plan. With respect to the second test, does the variance maintain the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw? The relief requested for driveway width for ambulances is reasonable from a functional and safety viewpoint. The other 2 driveways that will be on the site, 1 egress and 1 ingress, will allow for a smooth traffic flow into and out of the site. The variance generally maintains the intent and purpose of the zoning bylaw. With respect to the third test, is the variance requested desirable for the appropriate and orderly development and use of the lands and buildings? The proposed additional development represents efficient use of an underutilized parcel of land. The use is desirable on this site to serve the growing communities of Port Elgin, of Southampton, and Sobel Beach. There was a 10-year strategic plan prepared in 2020 that identified the site as an optimal location for the new paramedic station in Saugeen Shores. The county owns this property, and the site can reasonably accommodate the additional use. Ambulances can quickly access the highway, and they have advised that this location would improve the emergency service response timeframe. The variance represents an appropriate form of development for the use of the land. With test number 4, is the variance minor in nature? And again, we look at impact to surrounding property owners, impact on the environment, and impact to municipal functions. The use will be subject to site plan control, and at the site plan control stage, matters such as drainage, stormwater management are addressed to make sure that there's no impact to adjacent properties. As such, there'll be negligible impact to the adjacent uses. There is sufficient water and sewer services to accommodate the development. From an environmental perspective, I have spoken to the applicant being required to consult with the Conservation Authority, with the Ministry of Environment, to see if there are any impact to threatened and endangered species. It is my opinion that this variance is minor. It meets the 4 tests. A summary. The minor variance is requested to facilitate the construction of a paramedic station Specifically, relief is requested to increase the maximum width of the ambulance driveway from 10 meters to 18.260 meters. This proposal is consistent with the provincial policy statement. It upholds the objectives of the Saugeen Shores official plan and generally meets the intent and purposes of the zoning bylaw. The recommendation is approval of this application, subject to the conditions on the decision sheet. That concludes my presentation.
Just on mute a bit there, Pat.
I'm sorry, what I was asking is are there any questions for the planner from the members of the committee? Ms. Barwell.
I noticed reading through the package that it mentioned about in order to have 3 driveways, you would need 90 meters of frontage, but then they only have 74.88 meters. Is that something that's going to be a condition on the decision sheet? I didn't see it.
Okay, let's see what we have looked at. So yes, we had a discussion with the senior planner and with the town, Mr. Posner, and I think, and Mr. Posner, certainly you can correct me if I'm mistaken, but I think it ended up that no, they would not need a variance for the frontage along Mackenzie Road. I think that's how they have been implementing the policy or the provision in the zoning bylaw.
Okay. We'll now hear from the members of the public. Mr. Ban, do you wish to address the committee? We'll see him on here. Yes, they do, right down at the bottom. Mr. Ban? If not, Mr. Schaus, if you'd like to address the committee.
Through you, Chair. We don't. The only thing is that we're very excited to get this project up and going, and it's been a long time coming for Saugeen Shores. We're excited and looking forward to moving forward and being a resident across from the police station. That's all I really have. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Do any committee members have final questions before we close the public meeting and discuss the application? If not, I now declare the public meeting to be, oh, sorry, Vice Deputy Mayor Myatt. You're on mute, sir.
I could ask this now, or is there another opportunity later? That's the public meeting portion. You want me to ask it? Is this now time to ask the question, Pat, then?
If you wish.
Is there another?
Well, we're going to close the public portion. So I'll close the public portion, VDM, and then we'll, I now declare the public meeting closed. And now with any comments from the committee on this application, Vice Deputy Mayor Myatt.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. And I think any way we can minimize the amount of hard surfaces on that site, I think would be a good thing, and more greenery the better. And I guess it'd be a good opportunity too, Miss Planner. I just wonder if from a landscaping standpoint, has that been discussed with the with Bruce County staff in terms of as a condition that the landscaping be addressed on this site?
Through you, Mr. Chair, no, we had not discussed landscaping. And I'm not aware of the package that has been sent to the town for review, but there has been a site plan application, and normally landscaping is dealt with at the site plan approval stage. Maybe Mr. Posner can confirm.
Correct. Yeah. And I know that. Thank you. Actually, I know we'll ask that question, site plan control, but I think it's a good opportunity at that point in time to address landscaping for sure. Anyways, Steve, this is going to be a great addition to Saugeen Shores, and really appreciate the work that you've done and county staff done to bring this ambulance service right here across from the police department. I think it's just kind of a great opportunity for our community, and I'll certainly be supporting this application.
Thank you, Vice Deputy Mayor. But any other questions? If not, may I have a motion to approve this application subject to the conditions on the decision sheet? Moved by Deputy Mayor Matheson, seconded by Councillor Carr. Any discussion about the application? See not, I'll call the vote. All in favor? I declare the motion carried. Thank you, everybody. Our next meeting date will be on Monday, February 22nd, 2022. And at this time, I'd like to thank Ms. Froese for all of her hard work for the town as she moves on into her new role with the county. So thank you, Amanda, for everything that you've done for us. We appreciate it greatly.
Thank you, Pat.
May I have a motion to adjourn? Moved by Deputy Mayor Matheson, seconded by Ms. Kuntz. All in favor?
Sir, Mr. Chair, before you go,
Sure. Sorry.
is the meeting not Monday, the 21st, not the 22nd?
It'll probably be whatever the Monday is. Yeah, let's see.
I actually think it's because it's Family Day. It's
Family Day.
probably
Right,
the
family.
Tuesday,
That's
yeah.
right. Yeah.
Thank you,
okay.
Jay.
Yeah. So Tuesday, February the 22nd. If not, anyway, we had a motion to adjourn